Week 12 tight ends and defense preview here on the FantasyCruncher YouTube page. If you haven't already subscribed, please do hit that subscribe. Please like the video. And then, of course, leave in the comments tight end that you think will score over 10 fantasy points this week. And you'll be eligible to win a free 1-week subscription to FantasyCruncher Pro. So just leave it. We'll draw around randomly. Tight end this week is brutal. We're without Austin Hooper, Evan Ingram, Njoku's still out, and then we're getting hit by the bye weeks. Travis Kelce, Hunter Henry. We go on and on, my friends. Let's take a look at it. It's ugly. At the top, we're looking at Zach Ertz against Seattle. Zach Ertz has been okay this year, but other than that one blow-up game against Chicago, who's pretty bad against the tight end when they had no one healthy, it's been a whole lot of nothing this season for Zach Ertz. Tough for me to spend money, especially given the strength of the wide receiver class, as we talked about on the wide receiver video. Really tough for me to get to Zach Ertz. The guy, if I am paying up, I'm going to get to is Darren Waller, 5,700. Guy's been a beast. I talked about Tyrell Williams in the wide receiver video, but Darren Waller's kind of in the same situation. The Raiders haven't had to pass a whole lot. These last few weeks, they've been in control of the games and on the better end of the game scripts. I think against the Jets, they're going to have to put up some more points to the passing game. I think we'll see Darren Waller's upside return. I think the ownership might be down. You know, he's been pretty bad the last 4 weeks. Haven't got over 13 fantasy points. So this is a nice rebound spot for Darren Waller. He's the guy I'm looking at if I'm paying up. And then after that, it gets pretty ugly. Hollister's played well. They put Ed Dixon. You might have saw he got activated off of the IR, and then he got put back on the IR. So he's not going to be available. So Hollister's going to be their tight end number 1. It's just tough for me to trust it. You know, it's been very touchdown dependent to get these big scores. Targets have been there, though, so that's nice, but it's tough to trust him. I'm a huge fan of the player. Liked him back on the Pats a couple years ago, but I think if at this price range, if I'm playing someone, I'm going to play Ryan Griffin. He's been a bigger part of the Jets' offense all season when healthy. So, I mean, we saw Sam Darnold miss the first 5 weeks, and then he came back, played well against Dallas, and no one does anything against the Patriots, of course. Then played well against Jaguars and the Dolphins. And then against the Giants, Chris Herndon came back for 1 week before getting hurt again and going back on IR. So basically, if Sam Darnold has been there, Ryan Griffin has been a target. He's got a ton of touchdowns, gets a lot of work in the red zone. They don't really have another true red zone passing threat. Demaryius Thomas, I guess, but not really. So if I'm staying in this $4,000 range, Ryan Griffin is my preferred option. But I don't hate Hollister by any means. As we scroll down a little bit, Cameron Brate over O.J. Howard. It's tough to trust Brate. Did pretty well last week with 14 targets. But, you know, a lot of those were underneath targets. New Orleans was trying to make them not beat them deep. Those could be around this week, but you never know. It could be O.J. Howard out of nowhere again. Vance McDonald's a guy I like against the Cincinnati Bengals. He's put up 7 targets in each of the last 3 weeks. Just hasn't really caught anything for yardage or long touchdown. But that's stuff going to change against a pretty poor Bengals defense here. I just want my tight ends to get volume, especially when I'm not paying up for them. And here, Vance McDonald, 7 targets a week over the last 3 weeks. That's about as good volume as you can get for a 3,500 or less tight end. We're looking for some punts. There's this Giants guy who's really, really bad at football. What's he named? I couldn't even tell you his name. That's how bad he is. Let me literally just pull up the Giants tight ends. It's bad. It's like bad. It doesn't. He's 2,500. Let me see if I can find him. Caden Smith. Like, I'm not even sure the guy has an NFL catch yet, which is never a good sign when you're looking to play a guy. Pretty sure he doesn't have a single catch in the NFL. Let me pull up the Giants one more time here. Like, he's got 1 target for 1 yard. And just because everyone else is hurt that they're going to play him, I mean, if you need the salary savings, have at it. Chicago hasn't been great against the tight end this season, but for me, I want for 1,000 more, I can get a tight end that's at least competent in the offense. I acknowledge 1,000 is a bunch of salary, and we do live in the world of a salary cap, but then again, if you're not going to win a GPP with a guy putting up like 6 fantasy points at your tight end spot. You need good production out of all your spots. So I'll probably be underweight on the field on Caden Smith. I don't really see the point in going there. I acknowledge it's not fun to watch some of these other tight ends, but there's some good quality players, so we're not as desperate as I think as people want to make it appear to be. All right, that's it for the tight end part of the show. Let's go ahead to the defense part of the show here. Defense is a position that people love to punt. So this week, I think we'll see some ownership on the Dolphins, the Panthers, the Bucks, the Broncos. People love to pay under $2,500 for defense. Again, I like to just get good production out of all my positions. And the New England Patriots sitting at $3,300 is a really good spot for me. Dak Prescott's a guy who's struggled historically against zone. Pats do play a lot of man, but I think in this game we'll see them play a lot of zone to try to confuse Dak. They've got the safeties in the corners to do all sorts of cool stuff in zone. So I think we're going to see the Pats play a ton of zone this week. And they've been really good all season. Even when they haven't generated touchdowns, they've been able to get sacks and interceptions and fumbles. They've been phenomenal. They've only allowed over 13 points in one game this season. One. And I think people are just underestimating how high the Pats' defense floor is. Look, they played bad against Baltimore. Okay. Cool. They're not perfect. But other than that, they've been phenomenal. And ever since that Dolphins game on national TV, like last week, they were unowned in Philly. And this spot against Dallas is even better than that one. So the Patriots will be my highest owned defense. I don't want to say for sure, but it would take a whole lot of surprises for them not to be my highest owned defense this week. The Bills at home against Denver is always interesting. Denver, Brandon Allen, pretty limited passer, going into Buffalo where it's going to be cold. Granted, it's cold in Denver too, but it's windy. I'm not sure going to be able to effectively run the football too much. I know Lindsey's been better, but tough to trust. I think the Bills make for a really nice defensive play at home. They've been pretty good at home this season. 8 points against the Redskins, 11 against the Dolphins, even 6 against the Pats, 11 against the Bengals. So they've been pretty good at home this season, and they've already played 5 road games as well. So they're not one of those teams that's got this massive home-road split. Other defenses you can consider, the Lions on the road at Washington feels pretty trappy to me. This is a Lions defense that just hasn't turned the football over enough. They've got, what is that? They haven't had an interception since week 6, and they've had 2 fumble recoveries since week 7, and they've had 1 defensive touchdown since week 3. Just, they give them a ton of yards, ton of points. Too much risk here for the Lions. The Pats are only $200 more. And I keep finding that being my answer to a lot of these questions. Like the Giants in Chicago. The Pats are only $400 more. Why wouldn't I just find the money for the Patriots? I know that a lot of people like to diversify defense, and I do too. But outside of the Jaguars here at $2,800 against Ryan Tannehill, this is a team that has generated some interceptions. That's 7 in the last 4 weeks, 3 fumble recoveries, and 14 sacks. Like, I can get behind the Jaguars. They've had 2 tough matchups in the road, Indy and Houston, in the last couple weeks. So maybe people are down on them, but the Titans are the worst of the bunch. I could see getting to the Jaguars. But other than that, there really isn't a whole lot here that I'm like in super love with. You can make the case for the Steelers against the Bengals, of course, but you're paying $4,000. You can make the case for the Raiders against the Jets, but that's a West flying east for a 1 o'clock game. I think that's pretty trappy. I actually like the Jets to score some points. You know, other than that, it's just, there really aren't any of these other defenses that I love. The Saints, I think, are in a buy low spot, but I actually just trust the Carolina offense to be good enough with Christian McCaffrey. But if you wanted to play the Saints, I would get it. But again, the Patriots are the same price. I think the Patriots have more upside than the Saints. So for me, it really is coming down to just the Patriots and the Jaguars as core defensive plays for me right now. Fully understand that there's other ways you can go, but that's how I'm looking at this slate. A lot of other positions where I need to spread out. I'm going to go a little tighter on defense this week. Really appreciate you guys for checking out this video on the FantasyCruncher YouTube page. If you haven't already, please subscribe, like, and leave the tight end that you think is going to get 10 or more DraftKings fantasy points, and you'll be entered in a drawing for a free week of FantasyCruncher Pro. If you haven't watched the other videos in this series, the wide receivers, the running backs, the quarterbacks, they're all available on demand, along with some of our best from our Twitch streams. You can follow me on my Twitch stream, twitch.tv/TheSeigeDFS. Talk a lot of NBA and NFL at midnight on Saturday night. So check that out. And with that, guys, we'll see you next week.